What's up, guys? Been working on the 97. Had a rattle, a miss, lean condition, so decided to pull the intake off again and start digging in. So show you a little bit of what I found, which hasn't been a whole lot yet, but I did find a issue that causing the clacking noise, and I found a lot of dirty parts. Well, Camaro's been rattling for a couple months now, and I decided to change the lifters out. Show you what they look like. All black and carboned up. I've got a new set to go in there. SLP rocker kit, 1.8 ratio. Got them soaking, clean them. I gotta clean all the push rods. But I found the issue. That rattle's coming from my balance shaft. But got those cleaned up. These actually ride on this here. They don't ride on it, they sit on it and rotate, which is pretty neat, I guess. So I pulled the lifters out. I was going to replace them in hopes that I had a stuck lifter. Cam's perfect. All the lifters were good except for they had a lot of carbon buildup on the top. I was in here looking around. It's got aftermarket valve springs along with the rockers and push rods. It's got hardened push rods. So the balance shaft has play in it. Fantastic. This gives me plenty of time though to clean up some of this stuff. So I got some of this flush and clean radiator flush stuff. I've already flushed the whole system with water before I took it apart, like thoroughly. But I'm going to add water and this into it after I put it back together, and then I'll flush that out and add regular coolant. Don't ask why they're in a bottle. Actually, let me tell you why they're in a bottle. They're in a bottle because I cleaned them, and these are a set I had laying around. They were perfectly fine in the engine. I drove the car and everything with these lifters. These are rollers, so you can swap them over to a different camshaft, but you can't do that with a flat tappet. So I cleaned them up, oiled them up a little bit. I didn't fill the bottle. See, there's just a little bit of residual in the bottom there. It was just enough to keep them wet with oil, keep them in the bottle so they don't get dusty out here. Yeah, I'm gonna clean up everything, get it back together. I'll show y'all a little bit more in the second part when we get some more progress. All right, here's the rocker arms after getting them all cleaned up and everything. It's the SLP 1.8 ratio kit that came in the motor when I got the motor out of the car. Hardened push rods for the right length. Big issue was ran a little bit lean for one, and two, the balance shaft. But also there's that vacuum leak that I haven't been able to solve. It comes and goes. I think it's mainly with temp, comes up, then a vacuum leak comes in. So it's getting a bunch of new gaskets and everything up top. Hopefully resolve that. We will see. When it comes to your roller lifters here, I'm not soaking the entire lifter. I'm just soaking the roller tip. I'll leave those soaking in there. Those have actually been soaking for well over 24 hours now. The tips have been. That one's a little bit low for me. But take those directly out of there and put them in. That way when the motor starts up, there's oil in those tips. The rockers they've all been cleaned and soaked in oil. They'll get a bath in oil in here for the trunnion bearings as we put them in. We get to work on the plenums, get them cleaned up, ready to go for the fresh gaskets. You can see I've got some stuff on that. And we'll start getting this thing put back together. We'll dig back into it later. The balance shaft issue, I'm just not going to do it at this moment. But it'll be all right. Alright, I got my SLP 1.8 ratio rockers and push rods and everything. It's all installed, everything's torqued. Now I couldn't really find a torque spec on these rockers themselves, so I just used a little bit of common sense. I also looked up in a Haynes manual. Flashlight turned off there, but it will. The OEM torque spec, which does not really apply to this, but to give me a good ballpark on, you know, because it's going to have the same size bolt. It was 132 inch-pounds plus 90 degrees. Now on the torque wrench that I have, I went to 120, right? Hit 0 at that 120 line, and then I went up 12 plus that, which should give me my 132. But it was so close to 240. But I torqued all of them to that number, which one it is, and then gave it about 45-ish, maybe 35 degrees. Tighten after that. Just basically they're tightened down, so we're good to go. I'm not really going to worry about my paint situation on the block there. We're going to leave that alone because we're trying to make this thing run, not look good. I just painted it orange while I had it out. It was convenient. Right now I'm taking stone here, so I've been cleaning it out, and I'm going over the intake side of the heads, also over the front and rear of the block, so that my seals and everything seal up. The only issue I have is that coil or ignition control module bracket. I can't remove it, at least not easily. I could remove it if I really wanted to, but the bolts, you see one there, but there's also two back here next to the firewall. There's one actually under that harness right there. And I'm not going to try to do all that, so I'm going to work around it. Now when I put this motor in not too long ago, I had replaced all the gaskets, O-rings, and everything up top. Well, so I just went and bought the upper plenum gasket kit from Felpro. MS95746 is the part number. Manifold set. Includes a couple of different things in here. One, it includes 3 O-rings. Okay. This big red one, it goes on right here on the lower plenum around the thermostat slot. I guess that's where water passes through. The yellow one goes right next to it. Okay, and then this little tiny black one that they include, it goes right back here on the brake booster vacuum hose. Now, this car did have a little bit of a vacuum leak, which is a big reason in why I'm tearing it down, because I've addressed almost everything on this thing. The map sensor bracket here where it goes in, the PCV, I've done it. Idle air control valve I've done. I need, yes, while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead, remove my EGR block off plate, because that could be an issue. Yeah, let's go ahead and pop that off, and I'll show you what I've got for the setup for that. I also did the throttle body gasket and everything, but then at some point I pulled the throttle body off. The motor has a lot of sludge buildup in it, and if you guys probably already noticed that. So I ran some kerosene in it in my driveway before I changed my oil last time. So my throttle body, since the PCV is actually, where is it at? I believe that's the PCV port. It actually comes up and towards the center of the throttle body there. The throttle body was covered in a bunch of black sludge stuff, so I did pull that off at one point and clean it. So I did have to pull that and clean the upper plenum and the throttle body again to make sure that my new gasket, which comes in that Felpro kit, will seal. I did replace the lower plenum intake gaskets here and the China rail gaskets there back not too long ago. These are silicone impregnated plastic, okay, with aluminum sleeves here and there. These are pretty resilient gaskets. These actually last a very long time, and they hold a pretty good seal. Now, what I'm going to do, since I've compressed these and torqued them, and then, you know, silicone holds up to a lot of things, I am going to use Old Faithful Ultra Black. I'm going to put a thin film on every single gasket surface. And when I'm talking about a thin film, I mean very, very thin. But let's go ahead and pull the EGR block-off plate I made, and I'll show you a little bit more about it. Alright, pop the bolt out here. See what we got. So good news is it was indeed tight. Now I used some PTFE sealant on this. It's basically it's similar to silicone with the PTFE powder in it, but it's not made of silicone. I'm not really sure what it is, but it does dry out. We're going to have to give her a little bit of beans here to get that bad boy off. Let's get our little brass hammer here and tap her from the bottom. It's steel. This is steel, by the way. You can see a little bit of welding there. What I did was I took one of these 1/4-inch drive sockets, and when you remove your EGR, you'll have this plate already. All you gotta do is cut the hose and push the hose through. It's just a little thin piece of stainless steel. Take this here, find one of these that fit. I stuck it through like this from the top. And what I did is I found one that this outside diameter fit pretty well in this hole that goes into it. Put it in with this protruding that way. Welded the whole backside. Cut it, ground it flush a little bit here. Obviously I didn't spend that much time on it. Bolted it down with some sealant, and I'm done. And what that does is if this bolt was to loosen up, you could just fill this in with weld and put this bolt in, and then over time maybe it might move down or something of that nature. So having this sticking into there was a problem solver. Now if you were more serious about doing an EGR delete, maybe if you're building a race car or twin turbo car, something crazy, you could just tap it for a pipe thread and then just get a plug, put a plug in it. You'll be able to access it later, but that's more reliable than this. So that's why we're pulling it, is because I'm not really sure if this is an issue. It's just, I don't know if I've already said it in the video, because this video has been going on for a couple of days, but it seems like only when it gets up to temperature that it tends to have that lean condition. It's not a full-time lean, and it's unpredictable. It comes and goes as it pleases. Now, the intake side of the heads, the reason why I'm stoning them, cleaning them thoroughly with gas and everything, is because the heads weren't really super clean. I wiped them off with some brake cleaner before I put the gaskets on last time, but I do not think that those gaskets were able to seal because of the dirt that was on, just the simple dirt that was on the heads. So that's why we're going through as much as we are on those heads, and we're going to use a little bit of the black magic stuff on there to make sure that our gaskets seal up and we don't run into an issue again. Now, this motor will be coming back apart, like I said, because of the balance shaft. Yeah, the balance shaft, drive gear, and driven gear. We're going to have to replace those at some point, but right now I feel like it's safe to drive. It's been like that for about a month. First I thought it was a rod knock, scared me, but after listening to it with a stethoscope, whatever you call that thing, I found out that it was coming towards the center, so I assumed that it was a lifter. So with the lean condition and everything, I wanted to pull the top end back apart. I wanted to change my lifters, and I wanted to address the lean conditions that I have. So in the process of that, we discovered the balance shaft situation, which will get taken care of eventually. But right now I want to just get the prep and everything done to get this thing back on the road, because it is my daily driver. I've probably said that in several other videos. So since it's my daily driver, it not running and driving, I don't have something to drive. So I need to get this resolved. Now I do have the 83 project. I do tend to take it to town even when this car is running, because I do enjoy that car. Ooh. I'm gonna have to clean that bad boy up. But I haven't put tags on that car. So I'm not really too confident in driving it. Plus it has the belt situation that I've been trying to cure here recently. I might as well go ahead and start recording, because this is going to not be something I can do in just a few seconds here. This is going to be taking a while. I got to get all this cleaned out. Got to get all this that just fell into the hole. So I clean this hole out and make sure I get everything that comes out of there that falls in. I've got to get it out of the plenum. So I'll bring you back in a minute. All right, got most of the paint here cleaned off around the hole. It was pretty easy. I guess the Teflon, whatever's in that PTFE stuff, it's making the paint flake off in that area. So it was so easy just to hit it with my knife, and got most of it out. Got most of this cleaned out here on the inside. I feel safe with that. Worst case scenario, I can always come in and clean the inside out, because it is pretty dark inside there. But yeah, we're going to be using the Black Magic here. I got this most of the way cleaned up. You can see there's a little bit of residual down in there, but for the most part, it's pretty well cleaned up. I'm going to use some silicone, which should be the right stuff for the job. I don't know why I thought to use that PTFE stuff for, but it's for like pipe threads. I use it on threads. But I'm going to be your favorite person. I'm going to be quite liberal. But I want to be liberal with the silicone here. Let me get you in on the shot. I'm basically trying to smear it down in this little valley. It'll focus. There it goes. Get it down in here, and that way that part, it won't have to, the excess around here won't spend its time trying to fill that in. It will fill out, and I can wipe off the excess. I don't think that makes much sense to some people, but basically, I want to make sure this is sealed up. So I'm putting a crap ton on it. In layman's terms. I don't need as much of that as I thought I did. But yeah, we're going to get some done in here. There's an air pocket right there. Alright, now that I'm covered in silicone, that stinks a little bit. Both hands. And my part is thoroughly covered in silicone. Try to wipe some of this stuff off my fingers, but yeah, you can see the socket head there, how it sticks out. So now we're just going to pop this into the hole that you cannot see. By the way, don't get too excited about my editing. I'm here to teach, not here to make $1 million like some YouTubers I know. But this is for those few people who have a 3800 Series 2 and are running into some issues, wanting to do some mods on their Camaro. So there's probably only a handful of us out there that have these V6s still in their cars. But those of us that do, we want to do things other than just drive it until it blows up. Well, we're all doing that anyways. 1/4" drive impact. It can't hurt that. Doing that, so I don't think I'm going to actually wipe any excess off because I'll get you out of the stand here, but because there's very little, we're going to leave that alone. That is perfectly acceptable to me. I just don't like seeing big globs that are like go in different directions and everything. I considered putting the throttle body on now, but I still have the air box and everything on top of the radiator there, so I don't want to try to put this in with that big throttle body hanging off here, because it's going to be hard enough to have that big paper gasket laying on the lower plenum and then trying to slide this thing in between that and the cowl without touching that paper gasket and ripping it. Don't ask me how I know, I've done it before. So, not too sure what happened to the end of the video I had filmed. So, yeah, that's the end of part 1. So, part 2 will be coming your way. Hopefully we get the top end put together and get this thing running and driving again. So, make sure you stay tuned for that second part. Thanks for watching.